The palace had grown accustomed to the soft scratch of Sheikh Hamdan's pen in the late hours of the night, when the world was quiet and his soul spoke in metaphors only the moon understood. His love poems were once the heartbeat of the kingdom, lines drenched in tenderness, longing, and a fire that felt almost divine. But then, without warning, the verses stopped. Weeks passed. Then months. Not a single new love poem appeared on the pages of his journals or the screens of his admirers. Silence replaced beauty, and whispers replaced silence. People wondered if his muse had abandoned him, or if the responsibilities of the crown had smothered his romantic spirit. But those who lived nearest to the truth sensed something far heavier. Something had shifted in him, something too deep for the world to guess. His eyes, once bright with quiet passion, now carried a guarded shadow. His smile, once effortless, now felt measured. And the hand that once wrote effortlessly now hesitated over blank pages as though touching a wound. The shocking truth began on a night he never spoke of, a night that haunted him with unbearable clarity. He had been writing a poem, not for the world, but for one woman. A poem he intended to give her with his own trembling hands. It was the most vulnerable piece he had ever crafted, a confession woven into metaphors, the kind of love letter that could change a life in a single breath. He wrote until dawn, pouring his soul into every syllable, believing love could save him. But love, that night, did not save him. It shattered him. When he went to give her the poem, he found her in the gardens, but not alone. She stood with someone else, her laughter soft yet unmistakably intimate. The look in her eyes, the way her hand lingered on the other man's arm, told him everything he needed to know. She had never belonged to him, not even for a moment. The poem crumpled in his fist before he could tear it from his heart. He didn't confront her. He didn't ask for explanations. He simply vanished into the corridors of the palace, carrying a silence so sharp it felt like a blade pressed against his chest. He burned the poem that night, watching the flames swallow the confession he had convinced himself might change his fate. With each curl of smoke, a piece of him dissolved, his openness, his hope, his willingness to write of love as though love was still gentle. The shock wasn't just the betrayal, it was the realization that his poetry had betrayed him too. His own words had misled him into believing love was a safe place, a beauty he could trust. But the truth was harsher. Love had been listening to every word he wrote, waiting for the perfect moment to break him. And once it did, the ink inside him dried into something brittle, something unrecognizable. Days after the heartbreak, he tried to write again. He picked up his pen as he always did, expecting the emotions to guide him. But instead of poetry, only numbness filled the page. The metaphors refused to form, the imagery collapsed, and every line he attempted sounded hollow. His heart, once so alive in every stanza, now refused to speak of love at all. It was as though grief had locked every door inside him and stolen the key. His friends noticed the change. His family felt it. Even the horses he rode sensed the heaviness settling into his silence. He moved with a quiet restraint, speaking less, smiling less, retreating deeper into the parts of himself no one was permitted to touch. The world believed he had simply matured, that perhaps he had shifted toward more reflective themes. But the truth was darker, sharper. He was afraid of his own heart. He grew convinced that writing about love would awaken the pain he fought to bury. That every poem would become a doorway back to the night he watched the woman he loved slip into another's world. The thought alone was enough to paralyze him. So he stopped. He protected himself the only way he knew how, by ensuring his heart remained silent, untouched, unread. But the more he silenced his love poetry, the more the kingdom whispered. Why whispered that he had abandoned love, that he had buried his heart under duty, that he had chosen the crown over the pen, but none of them knew the truth burning behind his stillness. The truth was a secret he protected like a wounded bird, fragile enough to die if exposed, powerful enough to ruin everything if spoken. And every night he faced the same battle, to write and remember, or stay silent and survive. What truly ended his love poems was not heartbreak alone, it was the moment he realized his words were no longer safe. Someone had betrayed the sacred trust he placed in his verses. A poem he had written for one woman he had never dared claim, was leaked, twisted, weaponized. It wasn't an accident, it was a warning. Someone wanted him to stop feeling. Someone wanted him to stop writing. And for the first time in his life, Fazza felt fear linger in the ink he once trusted. He hid his pen like a soldier hiding a wound. On the outside, he smiled, he led, he fulfilled every royal duty with elegance. But inside, he walked through the ruins of his own vulnerability. The poem that had escaped him was not just a confession, it was a truth no one was meant to know. In those stolen lines, the world caught a glimpse of a love that could never be, and that glimpse was dangerous enough to scorch everything around him. But even when he stopped writing, the emotions didn't stop living. They grew heavier, louder, more persistent. Every time he saw her, every time he remembered their unspoken story, the unwritten poems throbbed beneath his ribs like trapped birds. Yet he forced himself to remain silent, because silence was the only shield he had left. Silence was the only way to protect her from the spotlight that would devour her whole. She felt her eyes glisten, not from surprise but from the depth of his sincerity. Why had the warmth in his words turned into distant echoes? People speculated he had simply outgrown romance, but in truth, he feared romance would destroy him again. And fear, when unspoken, becomes the most powerful jailer. Late one night, alone in his chamber, he admitted the truth to himself in the quietest whisper. He had not stopped writing love poems because he no longer believed in love. He stopped because he feared what love would demand of him if he dared to feel again. The truth was not that his heart had died, but that it was still bleeding. The shock deepened when one day, a maid discovered a hidden drawer in his study, filled with unfinished love poems, fragments of emotion he tried to suppress but couldn't fully escape. Each piece carried traces of heartbreak.